Welcome back to BadgerBlitz TV, your Rivals.com destination for all things Wisconsin athletics. Once again, I'm Matt Perkins, joined, as always, by my good friend, Rivals.com national analyst Clint Cosgrove. Clint, like we always say, it's the best time of the week.
Best time of the week to break it down with people in the den and talk some ball with Perko.
Yeah, well, I'm a little bit disappointed in the den for the lack of questions this week. So now, on my end, that's a good thing because that means I get to dictate the entire conversation. So we are just going to go ahead and get started on that. Most of you guys have probably already seen that Clint recently came out with an article about the potency of Wisconsin wide receiver and tight end recruiting, talking about not only the tight ends that the Badgers already have in the fold, but some of the receivers that they're really in on. Is there really a sort of a trend towards Wisconsin being now a place that receivers and tight ends want to go because of Phil Longo? And do you think that is going to continue into the future?
Yeah, I mean, the amount of receivers they've signed and the caliber, even in the transfer portal, kind of speaks for itself. And then you look at the two tight ends they have in-house right now. Now, it's not a number one tight end in the country or anything like that, but the combination between the two, and that's why I had him in the article as team to watch, is that's probably the best duo of tight ends that any team has committed right now. And then you combine that with the receiver talent that maybe isn't as likely, to come together as the tight end, group already has. But the guys that they're in on, and if it all comes, to fruition, it could be a very special group. How many receivers do they take? I don't know. I think that could depend on the caliber of players that they're getting. And that's why I thought Wisconsin was a team to watch. It's not often that I actually never once have I written about Wisconsin as one of the teams to watch. It was Ohio State and Wisconsin. So Ohio State's usually in there when I do the receiver recruiting teams to watch. But as when I was just doing the research, there were some obvious schools. Miami could be in there if some things changed. Alabama, Georgia. But I wanted to change it up. And in my opinion, Wisconsin had the best tight end duo committed right now. And then, combine that with the potential at receiver, you can see a special class.
Well, let's talk about some of those receivers, Clint. But before we do, this literally came in right before we started taping here that current Wisconsin tight ends coach, Coach Gino, I'm not going to even try because I'm going to botch the last name, is
Dedoogly?
Yes. I'll let Clint say it for me, is off to coach the quarterbacks at Notre Dame. Do you think this affects, A, either the commitments of Steck and Booker, and B, does this really change anything going forward? Is this just kind of a plug-and-play thing for whoever the next tight ends coach is?
I mean, Gino is he's a really good recruiter. Mm-hmm. He's a good football mind as well. He's well known on the recruiting trail. But it's happening at a time where I don't think it's going to affect much, luckily. Now, they might get into some battles with him at Notre Dame because he can recruit his butt off. And I also think if he's going there as the quarterback's coach, that probably means that Gerard Parker will be the new offensive coordinator. He played receiver. He's been the OC at, I think, West Virginia. He was on staff at Penn State. And then he was also at Purdue, where he was the interim head coach at Purdue as well. So, it'll be interesting to see. I mean, Gino's he's a good coach. He's well respected. He has great relationships with the kids. But just seeing the way that this staff has recruited and, the value that they sell and how involved the head coach is and how involved Maximus is, I think the core of, why kids are committing and why kids are interested is still there. And it's not just about one guy, especially when you get the head coach as involved as he is. As long as the head coach is there, I think we're in good shape. So, I don't think it'll affect the tight ends. Yeah, is it a little shock? I'm sure, because you don't want to hear that right after you committed and you like the guy that you're going to play for. Does it maybe make him consider stuff? There's a long time to go, so you never know. I think Booker being an in-state kid, it doesn't matter. Grant Steck, he's going to blow up a little more. I have a feeling that he's going to be highly contested by the end of his recruitment. Could affect him, but by that time, they'll have a tight ends coach in play, and I think they'll have a pretty good idea of what's going on by then.
Yeah, it will be interesting to see not only who fills the position, but how quickly the position is filled. And then obviously there'll probably be some other dominoes that fall, as they always do in the coaching carousel, which continues through the spring. But speaking of these wide receivers, you mentioned four guys in the article. One of them, Kyne Johnson, we've talked about here on the show before. As a kid who made a big leap as a junior and going into his senior year, is continuing to grow. We have yet, though, somehow we've never broke down his teammate, the higher ranked I'Marion Stewart. And I don't know how that ever happened, but Clint, we are here to right that wrong today. As long as I've known you, you've told me about I'Marion, and he's been a very notable recruit in the Midwest since he was a freshman. What makes him special?
Well, he picked up his first offer before he even played high school football, I think, from Arizona State. His older brother, so I've known the Stewarts for a while because his older brother, my dad, recruited. He ended up going to Oregon State, transferred to Eastern Michigan, finished out his career there, I believe. But I'Marion's just he's a special talent. He's got ridiculous route running skills. He's fast. He's got great straight line speed, but he's also got that intermediate speed. He's extremely quick, shifty, agile, and then obviously you see him there. That's against Lincoln Way East, one of the premier programs in the state. He's running away from people. He absolutely dominates the camp circuit. This year was interesting because Jonas Williams, the freshman quarterback, that's a freshman throwing to him. Bolingbrook hasn't always had a kid like this, a quarterback. Now they have a legit Power 5 kid throwing to him, and he just kind of blew up. Before, he had to make plays on his own, go get balls, return punts, whatever it may be. Now he's got a certified gunslinger sending it to him. He's got Kyne on the other end, and it just sets him up to really put his skill set on display. At all the camps that we go to, he's at every event. He's at every 7-on-7. He's always competing. And the thing with him is he is just so hard to cover. And, his catch radius, his ability to adjust to the ball and track in the air is special. His route running ability. He's not a big guy. He's probably about 5'11", 6 foot, 180 pounds. But he's the type of receiver that you see, teams like Tennessee playing with. And he's going to be a special player. He's just got to continue to develop and bulk up. But ultimate competitor, there really isn't anything he can't do. He can stretch the field. He can get you intermediate. He's great with the ball after the catch. And overall, just a kid that I really like, and a lot of colleges really like as well. But I've known the family for a while. I knew about the kid since he was young, and it's been fun seeing his development because he is definitely, probably in the past year and a half, really separated himself from a lot of guys who were maybe similar to him across the Midwest and nation before.
Do you think he and Kyne want to play together at the next level?
I think that's a possibility. I'Marion has more opportunities right now, but Kyne's starting to blow up. And the thing with Kyne is he's got the best ball skills maybe that I've ever seen in my life. At the point of attack, he separates better than anybody that I've maybe ever seen. His leaping ability is incredible. And if you give him an inch and you throw the ball his way, he's going to come down with it. He can adjust. There's just, he's a little smaller than I'Marion, and probably not as fast as far as top end straight line speed go. But as far as route running ability and ball skills, he's as elite as it gets. I think I could see them wanting to play together. I don't think that will be the determination, how they determine their decision. If I had to guess, Wisconsin's probably in a better spot with Kyne. But at the same time, with Phil Longo's offense coming in, I'Marion does like Wisconsin. If they have an opportunity to play together, and they're good friends, I think it only helps Wisconsin. And if they're going to take two, you take those two all day, and you'd be set for a few years. That's for sure.
Yeah, and then 2 years down the line, when Jonas is ready, he just follows on up to north to Madison. Well,
that would be huge.
Bolingbrook, however, not the only place they're producing good receivers right now, because there are a ton of dudes coming out of St. Louis. We've talked about a bunch of St. Louis dudes here on this show. We know it's very fertile recruiting ground, and I think the staff is making it more of a priority from the jump. A couple other guys that we haven't talked about here, big name recruits. We'll start with Jeremiah McClellan from the powerhouse Christian Brothers in St. Louis, and he's another 4-star kid. What stands out about Jeremiah?
Jeremiah is probably as complete of a receiver as there is in this class. He's a kind of a bigger body. It's funny because I first saw him at an event when he was a freshman. I'm like, who is this kid? He's absolutely freaky. Find out he's a freshman. I'm like, good Lord, he's going to be very good. His dad played at Kansas State. His dad coaches at the high school. Great people. Jeremiah is about as phenomenal of a kid as you will find. He is just so savvy. Look at him run the routes right there. He can manipulate his body to the point where he knows how a defender's going to react at the point of attack. I mean, he's a guy who can adjust his body. Again, his catch radius is incredible. The thing you really like about him is he's deceptively fast. He looks almost heavy-footed because he's a big guy. Actually, that's me sitting up in the corner filming on this play. You can actually see me in the stands right there. But that's against a team from Georgia, that last play. And what really stood out for me, that's when I was like, Jeremiah's got an extra gear. I think he hit 21 or 22 miles per hour when he was separating from that defensive back in those last 3 yards as it got close to the end zone. So that's one of his biggest things. When the ball is in the air, his ability to adjust or separate from a defender in phase is second to none. I just absolutely love him. Everything about him. He is one of the best kids you'll ever come across. As far as a personality-wise, he'd be a great fit at Wisconsin. He's going to have every offer in the country. He's one of my favorite kids to not only cover, but to watch because he's just so dynamic. He does so many things, and he's just so complete of a player. He can get off press. He's strong. He can block. He can, snap off routes, back shoulder throws, whatever it may be. Jeremiah can do it, and he's a special player. He reminds me a lot. I can't remember the guy's name now, but the Browns receiver. Gosh, why am I going blank? Well, I hate it when that happens.
Which one?
I throw out a
Amari Cooper.
And, no, the bigger one. God,
Josh Gordon.
I can't even think of his name. No, not Josh Gordon.
That was a long time ago. And I think he probably has less off-field concerns than Josh Gordon did. As well, coming out of that one. I'll let you think of it while we talk about another kid from.
I don't remember.
While we talk about another guy, Donovan Peoples-Jones.
Nope.
Okay. Well, you know what? I'm trying here. Well, let's talk about another receiver from St. Louis, and that is
like Donovan Peoples-Jones is actually I'Marion Stewart. They're very similar coming out of high school.
Well, there you go. Another guy who's going to get a lot of comps to a lot of guys in the NFL, I would say, such as A.J. Brown, would be the first guy that when I saw Ryan Wingo that it reminded me of, because he's just bigger, faster, and stronger than every dude around him. He's a 5-star. Wisconsin never gets 5-star receivers, but hey, you never know with Longo. I think there might be something there. If the Badgers even have a puncher's chance with Wingo, that's phenomenal. It also gives me an excuse to just watch the tape and marvel at just a kid who can just out athlete everyone around him by miles.
Yeah. So Wingo, I've known about Wingo, heard about Wingo, watched Wingo since he was in maybe grade school or middle school. His older brother played at Arkansas in the NFL. The Wingo family is just well known, and this kid has just been on a different level since he was young. He's size-wise, I mean, he's got an NFL frame. And you talk about A.J. Brown. He's taller. He might end up being just as thick, and he runs in the 10.5s in the 100-meter dash. So he's actually been, a track concentrated kid. So you don't see him on the 7-on-7 circuit a lot. But this kid is just physically and athletically better than everybody around him. You'd like to see a little more production at times, but at the end of the day, the upside is just that of a first-round draft pick. He can flat out fly. And as raw as he is, he's just phenomenal. So he's only going to get better. The thing about him is he grew up being a running back. It's just he's like 6'3" plus now, and you can't really be a running back. And so that's where he feels most comfortable with the ball in his hands. So he's really learning how to be a receiver on the run, and he's obviously very good at it. The other thing with him is this is kind of similar to Malachi Coleman in a way where he could probably be an outside linebacker or an edge rusher as well. He could probably be a safety. I mean, there's just so many things he can do because when it comes to freak athletes, when you look at combination of size, skill, overall speed, his upside is just that of few in the class. Maybe Jeremiah Smith, the Ohio State commit, who's our number 2 overall player and number 1 overall receiver, would be the other guy who has a ceiling like Wingo, but just a lot to like here. He's got every offer in the nation. He's probably a Tennessee or Notre Dame lean right now. But at the same time, he played at the same high school as Chris Brooks Jr. They've known each other since they were young. The families are friends. And if you can get them up on a visit and then, Longo's offense can produce early next year or show that their willingness to throw around the ball, get, something to get a receiver of his caliber excited about. You never know. I put it in the article just because of the connection to Wisconsin, the Midwest ties as well. But, I don't think he's definitely a shoo-in by any means, but he is a guy that Wisconsin has a fighting chance with. It'll be interesting to see how much resources they put towards it. Their best, the best guy for the job is going to be Chris because he's already on campus, loves it. And, Chris's dad played in the NFL, has some pull in the area, coaches youth football in the area, has a radio show and everything like that too. So, he's probably going to be pushing for the Badgers. But yeah, Wingo's a difference maker, could be a difference maker at multiple positions. And can you imagine that group? I mean, I feel like you'd have to take all 3 if you could get all 4, if you could get Jeremiah, I'Marion, Wingo, and Kyan. That would be a special
this staff's
group.
not going to say no. You find room for 4 guys. If all 4 guys want to be there, you find room for 4 guys, and that's just how it is.
Those are 4 elite players, and especially with Wingo being able to play somewhere else if you needed him to, even though he can be a game breaker at receiver. I mean, it's almost like the draft when you get to a certain point where I'm just taking the best player available.
Absolutely. Well, one of the best players available in the nation at defensive end is Brandon Davis-Swain. And he's another guy we're going to take a look at the tape at here in a second. We know the Badgers are feeling like they're in a good place with Kellen Lindstrom right now. I know you feel like the Badgers are in a good place with Kellen Lindstrom right now as well. We talked about him a couple podcasts back, so make sure to check out the tape on him when we broke him down. But Davis-Swain is still probably, at least the national perception is, he's a cut above. He is Davis-Swain is a real deal Holyfield type of defensive end. And so I think that he is the kind of kid who could really just make an impact, not only as a defensive end, he could be a stand-up edge. I see him being quick enough off the line to do that as well. What do you see out of him?
So Brandon's an interesting kid. He is, he's big. People don't realize how big he is. He's already like 240 something pounds. Now we had him as a weak side defensive end at one point, moved him to strong side because he's going to continue to grow. And the thing that's unique about him is he is so strong and sudden. He's got the ability to hold the edge. So he can be like an edge rusher, but also bring everything to the table that you have from a strong side defensive end. Blowing up power, taking on double teams, chasing the quarterback on zone read. There's really nothing that he can't do. He is strong. He works hard at it. He's incredibly intelligent, and he's a phenomenal kid on top of it. But he's got a chance to break the sack record up at his high school, and there's been some big time players come through there. So just a special player overall. Just had him on the interviewed him on video the other day. He dropped, I think it was a top 11. Wisconsin made that group. They have not been to Madison yet. I plan on going. But I would say Wisconsin's up in that top 5, probably with maybe USC, Penn State, Michigan, and Colorado are probably some of the others. But he's seriously considering all 11. I know he wants to get down to Auburn. But yeah, this is a dude you can work with because he's just so strong. He's got a high motor. I mean, look at him chase the freaking quarterback there from the backside. Most guys at his size would give up on that play. So not only does he not give up, he chases him down, and he proves to be faster than the skilled guys around him. On that play right there where you see him, the ability to transition from straight speed to jumping to bat a pass to landing and being able to, turn and chase. I mean, so there's a difference when you have a guy that has his athletic ability and size, and then a guy who plays like their hair is on fire as well. He shoots the gap so fast. He knows how to use his hands. He's constantly working. He can take on double teams. There's really nothing that he cannot do. One of my favorite defensive linemen in the class, different than Lindstrom in the sense that Lindstrom's a little taller, longer, so he looks a little thinner and narrower. Brandon is a thick kid, and he, just look at the strength there. He just literally bullies people. And he plays with such good, pad level, plays underneath his pads. His lateral movement's great. Look at him read the play and then redirect and then take on the quarterback and finish it there. There's just so much to like about him. I can't wait to see him in the offseason. Actually, he probably won't do anything until All-American games. But this is a special player, going to continue to be a national recruit, would like to commit before his senior season, but remains open right now. Drop that top 11. I don't know if that's a final 11. I'm sure that's could be fluid as well, depending on how things go, the visits go, and everything like that. But they like Wisconsin. Academics are a very important part of that decision. Wisconsin is obviously good there. And so it'll be interesting to see how it all plays out. One-time Notre Dame commit. He could always go back there as well. But you got to love everything you see on film. You love the upside. You love the size, the strength, the want to. And, Brandon's a big-time player.
You mentioned Colorado probably up there in his top 5. Is there really that much juice already around Coach Prime in Colorado? Like, no matter where you go?
Yeah.
That's wild.
It's every single kid who goes there.
That's wild.
Every single kid who goes on a visit there, when they come back, Colorado's in their top group every single time. I guess there's just that aura. I mean, can you imagine getting recruited? It's different for us too. Like some of these guys, these kids didn't watch him growing up. I remember watching Dion return a punt for a touchdown and then hit a home run the next day. Like the dude's just different. He's a celebrity. He's like the first, celebrity college player, and his Mr. T starter kid at the combine, and like the original swag guy. So, you go down there and you're being recruited by a celebrity, and he spends time with, the guys that are high priority targets. And I think they feel comfortable with him because he's laid back, he's talks about his values all the time. And, I think, when you get down to Colorado and Boulder, it's beautiful. So the one thing they were missing was somebody who knew how to coach and recruit. And, it appears they have that. So, have not heard one bad thing from any kid who went there. And every kid, even if they say, I'm not going to go to Colorado, they're like, that visit was downright special.
Well, Clint, I've got a couple officials left. So I might try to go pick up a scholarship. I mean, maybe we should arrange that. That would just be selfish of me. I want someone to take me on an official visit. So I imagine that from the stories that I get from Bernie and all of the guests on the show, it's a pretty fun time. Even an unofficial can be a very good time. I imagine if you are in Boulder. Since we will not be there next week, we'll be back here with you guys on BadgerBlitz TV. So he's Clint Cosgrove at Rivals_Clint on all the social medias. I'm Matt Perkins. And until next week, we will see you guys in the den.
In the den.